Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a special bonus episode of Card Talk with Tim and Harry. And as you may have noticed, another picture has appeared in the bottom right corner, and that is none other than the famous Slither.
Hi. Thanks for having me on. I know I've been lurking on your streams for quite a while now, so it's very cool to be on the podcast.
You're lurking and you're active. It's awesome. You're
Mm.
chatting about different. I mean, really, uh, Slither is wonderful and is always kind of sharing his thought process with deck builds and like, we're often kind of talking about. I mean, it actually started with Tau. We were kind of going back and forth, talking about like the Ultramarine season of hell and
Yeah,
trying to get things to work. So,
I feel we could
um,
write a novel on Anvar after all the Discord chats about him.
at this exact turn, you do this exact play.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
it was a bit. We definitely had nothing better to do. Let's just put it that way. And Harry, how are you doing today? What's going on with you,
Yeah,
my man?
yeah, man. Same old, just uh, playing a little bit more, struggling on the ladder. As you
I
do.
feel that. Yeah. I mean, Slither is still finding some some great success I've seen, but yeah, I've also just on that topic. I feel like I struggled to kind of figure out which four factions I was going to try and focus on, and then sort of just through streaming was like, I think I'm going to pick these particular decks that I think would be kind of decent to grind with, but also quite a bit of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting with this new rank system. And part of this part two episode is really to kind of say like, the three of us have looked at these cards and day one we're having our own takes on what's good, what's bad, what is looking to be most powerful. And I was pretty sure like once things got rolling, it would be great to have Slither on to also just kind of talk about his approach to deck building and just kind of like what is working right now for Genestealers, but also maybe whether we have nerfs or whether we have changes in the future. What could maybe be some of the other strategies that kind of come out. Um, so are we ready to kind of get into our little week one post mortem?
yeah. Sure. Let's discover why like all our week one takes were wrong.
Yeah, yeah, there's a little bit of that. First things first, we kind of wanted to get into, kind of our first impressions versus week one mechanics, right? I mean, I guess we're technically approaching the second week at this point, but um, yeah, I'm gonna kick it right to you, Slither, off the bat. What are some thoughts and feelings on like mechanics and where they're out at this point as opposed to day one?
Okay, so I've tried to play a bit with all three mechanics. I had like an ambush deck and a sabo deck, and I've like just recently been playing the super busted uprising deck. Um, I think um, going by what was said in a lot of other content before, like I think everyone thought ambush would be the super problematic mechanic, and it's kind of like fine if anything. It's a bit weak. Um,
Yeah.
you do have that guessing game, but it's not. I don't know. I feel like the first few turns, like if your opponent's that worried, you just stand the flanker and it's not like a massive deal. Um, I kind of had this thought with ambush. Obviously, there is the coin flip, but like in every Warpforge game, your warlord is always like taking some damage from like trading into units. With ambush, it just kind of turns that into a coin flip. But on average, you're still just like taking some damage here and taking some damage there.
Right.
Um, if anything, I think what I found with ambush is kind of like prey for sisters in that you kind of have these bonus effects you want to get off, but you kind of need to like already have a bit of a lead or some kind of setup to like consistently get them. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
in some way, it's a bit more consistent than sisters because you can put flank on stuff to just like get the effect. Or you can even do stuff like backstab your concealed explosives if you want to guarantee that, which is actually not a bad combo. Um, so yeah, I think ambush is fun. I think probably like the weaker mechanic. Sabotage is quite a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun playing a Sabotage deck that like added layer of like counting your like opponent's cards and trying to like clog their hand and stuff is like really fun. It's almost like you're half looking at the board and you're like half looking at your opponent's hand, which obviously you don't really do in other decks.
No.
I don't think it might just be due to like the power level, but I think I mean people are also saying, oh, like Sabotage is going to be kind of toxic because you don't want to play these other cards, but I feel like there is definitely a bit of a skill cap with Sabotage. You can't just like put one card in one turn and put another Sabotage card in the next turn, because unless your opponent's like super aggro and it's going to slow them down, like they're just going to play them out and you're kind of just like going back and forth for nothing. If anything, you kind of want to like find these turns you can sneak like 2 or 3 Sabotage cards in, so your opponent can't like clear them all, and then you can kind of like snowball and even like potentially like take over your opponent's hand, which is super cool. If anyone's not played Sabotage, you actually see your card back in their hand. There's a certain satisfaction in seeing their hand turn from like their card back into your card back.
Do you know what though? I want to say one thing. Make sure you have a different card back to your, because that was confusing me. Where I had no card back, I couldn't work out how many Sabotages was in their hand. I didn't know the difference.
You have to like remember it.
Yeah, I was going, how many is in there? 1, 2.
Yeah, you got to bust out the cosmetics for that, or like some random like card back that you've had. I mean, you don't have to, but it definitely helps. And it's funny, like, yeah, I think so. I definitely feel pretty similarly about Ambush and Sabotage, and I really, really thought Sabotage was going to be the biggest problem coming out of these 3 mechanics. I remember like Harry and I looking at Underground Network and some of the other cards and being like, oh my god, you're gonna put these in your hand and then your opponent's gonna have to like figure out what to do. But I agree, like there are clear ways in which you're kind of throwing away Sabotages if you're not kind of playing it right, and it's really the accumulation, right, like the pressure to hand and kind of balancing pressure to the board a little bit, at least in my experience, like kind of doing a little bit of mixing and matching. And it's really hard to evaluate that until you're doing it. So
there's definitely turns of Sabotage where you spend like the whole turn putting like 3 or 4 Sabotage cards in, but like you've got like 1, 2 HP dude on board, and they're just like, okay, whatever, I'll just play them all out, like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get into some of the cards that are our favorites and like have quite a bit of power, and I think there are some cards that are 2 for 1 with Sabotage that are noticeably better than the other ones, and it is just a really interesting mechanic to be like interacting with your opponent's hand while also playing a regular game of Warpforge and trying to figure out like what works and what doesn't. I mean, did anyone feel that Uprising was going to be as big a deal as it is now? Like, did anyone feel that on day one?
I thought like it was going to be like Kellamorph and stuff like that. It was going to be like super late game combos that would take over, but it's like not been that at all.
Kellamorph, man, haven't seen that guy around.
I think. I guess when BJ was deck building with like Uprising, you had him in at the start. Then after a while, I was like, I don't need this guy. Like, just put a bunch of cheap dudes in and play him out for free. Like, that's the way to win. It is.
Yeah, I could just play Neophyte for 0 actually, and do my Kellamorph impression.
Play 6 initiates out.
Like even looking at this guy, I remember Harry and I were looking at this and we're like, okay, like this is a decent statted card. Like, okay, all right, great, like you can kind of buff it up and maybe it'll be a little bit of a problem, but like nowhere near like, oh yeah, you're gonna play this guy and like literally fill your entire board and this thing's gonna have 20 attack.
I thought this card was. I thought the hybrid Metamorph was like trash, but when it first saw it was so wrong.
I was giving little hybrid Metamorph like the benefit of the doubt that he was maybe like efficient enough as a common, and it turns out like this is, I mean, well, obviously we'll talk about infestation. I won't get too far ahead of us, but I couldn't really see the accumulation of these effects leading to uprising being like incredibly like efficient. I couldn't quite see that. I mean, it's interesting to kind of do this retroactively because, I think in future sets, like I'm itching now to see Imperial Guard and be like, can I assess this better than I did last time?
Yeah. No, it was. Sabotage blinded us because we was just so focused on sabotage.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna be running for the hills when they start hitting my hand with this thing, and it's just, it's definitely an interesting level, like interesting layer to add to the game, and honestly, I don't think it's like toxic. Like I feel pretty confident that even if it buffs or kind of shifts, I still think that there's you have some decision, right? Like your opponent still gets to decide what they want to do, right? And like
absolutely.
coming from a Magic principle, generally when you give your opponent options, even if those options are bad, it typically is not as powerful as you think. And I think that was something I definitely should have considered maybe a little bit more. But I will say, when I get Underground Networked, I feel the pressure. So.
It's very scary if you've like greeded and like kept a few sabotage cards in, or even like just one, and then they played Underground Network. Then that feels really bad.
Yeah, it's a pretty big punish.
Yeah. One thing I thought the sabotage deck might be okay into the Uprising one because you kind of clog their hand and
yes,
maybe stop them getting a good combo. But actually, it just doesn't really work because like the Uprising player is just like, that's fine. I'm happy to spend the first 5 turns like just playing out your sabotages because I'm going to wait on 6 anyway.
Yeah, and obviously we'll talk about the Warlords too, which I think really affects like your decision making. Like there's 2 Warlords that we'll definitely get into more, who kind of allow you to take different decisions. To the point where I think it really maximizes your ability to adjust to what your opponent's doing. And I agree with you, Slither. It feels kind of weird when your hand gets like jammed up playing Uprising combo, but it just doesn't matter enough, and then they just kind of win the game. So, but I do love the Concealed Explosives combo. I wanted to put this card as like an example of ambush because sometimes you actually get some cool advantage, and like the fact that you can pop it yourself with backstab is like kind of a cool interaction, and I just hope that ambush can, especially for the 4-drops in particular, like I hope that there's a bit I don't know, that there can be something done to improve ambush's kind of ability to function a bit more. But
yeah, I'm not sure how they would buff it. I actually don't mind I think the melee 4-drop is okay because you don't really care about his ambush. You just want him to be able to strike.
Yes.
The bonus damage is just like a bonus.
Yeah.
If anything, I found the 6 and 7 drop a little bit underwhelming.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I know Harry loves the Patriarch guy, which is, I mean, I do love that card too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's good if you can get him off.
Oh yeah, no, I can't wait to get him. Actually, he looks so sick. I'll be playing him.
He is pretty sick. Yeah, it's wild to think where things are now as opposed to day one, really going through all these cards and looking at them. And I guess like to kind of close out this segment, like in terms of power level, right? Like we have one archetype that's kind of overshadowing everything else, but I guess where would you guys, from your experience playing with and against so far, like if 1 is Sisters of Battle and 10 is Tau, where would you kind of put Genestealers in terms of their like their roster of cards and like the power?
Oh wait, so 10 is high, 1 is low.
Yeah.
I probably give them I don't know. I think like is it like overall card pool, or probably say like
Yeah,
8? I want to
let's
say.
for
I feel
overall
like
card pool. Yeah.
there's not too many like out and out like just bad cards. Like a lot of stuff just works.
Mm.
There's a couple of like not so strong cards, but I feel like the whole card pool is like is I'm generally pretty happy with.
Yeah. What do you think, Harry? I know you haven't got to collect as many cards as Slither and I, but like, do you feel like they're as kind of? I think we both were kind of saying I think they're going to be strong. But yeah, what are your general thoughts on that?
I put them like just a tiny bit behind orcs.
Okay.
I think they're strong. I think
Okay.
they are strong. So I would say like, because you got them, you got similar to the orcs. You've got them flanker units. You got the 4 melee flanker. You got the 6 range flanker. You got the hypermorph that's similar to the one in Necrons. You know, the annoying one with the 2 armor.
Oh, I haven't played with that guy as much, but yeah.
He's in my deck. I'm using it, bro. He's like, obviously I'm missing a lot of cards, but I'm using him for now, and do you know what? I'm actually actually enjoy having him. Like,
Alright, Harry, if you run in the Vanguard dude, if you unlock that legendary that gives something invulnerable,
It's so
play
good.
him. Yeah, you can combo him with the Vanguard, so they just can't touch you, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
I've run into the 2 armor, like the 6-0 guy as well, like playing into someone's sabotage builds, and it actually was such a roadblock.
yeah.
I forget what deck I was playing into it, but I lost to it, and I was like, huh, okay, that's maybe something I didn't think about. I think I generally am with you, Slither, in terms of like, and I think we're all kind of talking about the same thing. Like their card pool seems relatively good. Like not any cards that stick out as like completely unplayable. Yes, the mechanics have their own kind of power level to them, but I feel like this was a good middle ground for what EG has kind of been doing. You know, it didn't feel terribly underpowered. I guess we'll kind of see what potential nerfs come for Uprising, and like, does that actually make the faction, less competitive? I still think that there's a lot to be experimented with. It's still pretty early days, but yeah, I feel like this was pretty ideal in terms of like, how strong are they? Are they busted and OP? Are they needing 4 patches of buffs like Sisters of Battle? I feel like this is kind of in the middle of that, but definitely closer to. They've got flexibility. They've got some powerful stuff. They've got some cool synergies, and sort of closer to the Tau in that sense.
I do hope power level, like because I'm sure Uprising will get nerfed in some way.
Yeah.
I do hope EG like maybe slightly, I don't know, maybe tweak sabotage a little bit and maybe buff ambush. Like, my worry is that they'll see like, oh well, this new faction is like OP, let's just nerf him, and then if Uprising gets good, then I think they'll probably be like a low mid tier faction probably.
Yeah, that's also my fear, and yeah, it's hard to know what they're going to address. Like, are they just going to touch infestation and that's it, and it comes down later, and therefore your counterplay is to play aggro? Are they going to nerf metamorph? Like, are they going to nerf? Jeez, it's been a long day. Sorry about that. Are they going to nerf like key cards? I guess like I don't really know what they would touch though in terms of like. Neophyte, I don't think you would change. I don't think you would change, like, I don't know.
Uprising is a weird one to balance because
yeah,
so many effects like Metamorph like aren't on paper aren't that great. It's just when you include Infestation, obviously they can like skyrocket in terms of their power level.
Exactly. I mean, we know cost reduction has been problematic, but it's also like Uprising, doesn't really function if you can't have some sort of like big swingy turns. The problem is that doing that on turn 6 or 7 it's a little too early to basically say, hey, I have lethal, can you deal with this? You know?
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I guess maybe they might push it to like they might push infestation to like 7 or 8. I think if they're gonna do like an easy nerf, that would probably be something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I would probably advocate for is like let's try a light touch and then maybe look at some cards and like honestly, I have to imagine I'm jumping the gun here, but I know we're gonna get into Warlords in a second. Like if their numbers say Malik is seeing like 0% play, like I would love to see something for. I don't know if it's the Warlord or maybe the cards that might go with him, but it would be nice to see. You know, I don't know. It's kind of a pipe dream to have every faction have 3 playable Warlords, I guess, but I don't know.
I don't think Malik's bad. I just don't. I think
It's
with
not good
Uprising
enough.
being, yeah, I think with Genestealers they. Yeah, I don't think he's. I've played with him a bit too. I don't think he's bad. I think he's just in a kind of combo-y faction. The Warlord with no card draw is like maybe a little bit weaker.
So let's
Like his
get
ability is fine.
let's get into that. So we'll move on to our next portion, which is first impressions versus week 1 for the Warlords. And Harry, I'll let you jump into it. I know you have a lot of love for Malik. So what are your thoughts on him so far?
Like we didn't know about the hill when it went so
No,
like in the
we
beginning.
didn't.
We didn't know about the hill and like I'll be honest, like I've enjoyed Malak because he reminds me a bit like Warshaper, not as
Yes.
good because you have to do the damage and then use your hero ability. But I just enjoy that style of play, that like aggressive. Like I don't like to look through cards and find more cards. Like it just longs out the game for me. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to just
Spoken like
play.
a true aggro player.
Yeah. But yeah, I've enjoyed Malak. I'll be playing Malak probably until
until something else gets your catches your eye. Yeah, and I put out a video on Malik this week, and like, you know, I kind of basically was like, look, this deck is not probably consistent enough, but there are pieces here that kind of make sense in terms of being aggressive, but also having access to some pretty nice card advantage. You know, when you factor in certain cards like Biophagus and even the Icon Bearer, you know, getting you a couple of neophytes after you're attacking, and kind of combining some of the other like stronger epics in the card pool. I do think he has potential. I think it's, you know, there is some power to him. It's clear that this faction is a bit more kind of combo synergy oriented, so I'm not surprised that like just a card that's like, hey, buff your guys and heal them, you know, isn't the front runner. But I'll just say for my piece, and then definitely Slither jump in. I really thought Magus Uthril was like the warlord for this faction, and I'm obviously now it makes sense that Primus Sappho just works for like the best thing you're trying to do. But yeah, I could not have predicted that Magus was kind of going to be the middle of the pack, I guess.
Yeah, I guess his abilities is a bit. If you're deck building with like certain combos in mind, like Magus might not give you the cards you need. I think is my problem. But he's still a great Warlord power. It's just
it's so cool that it gets it from like the card pool. I know some people are gonna, you know, maybe flame me for that. Like, yes, when you get double bomb legendary dropped on you, it's kind of like you're playing draft. That's probably not the best, and maybe we don't put legendaries in the card pool. But I also like for a new player starting the game, Magus is like such a great warlord, right? Because it like expands your collection, essentially. Obviously, the consistency is not as much there, and I think that's why Primus is quite good.
Yeah, I think he was probably the most fun warlord to play when they just came out, because obviously there's cards you've not tried, then it gives you an excuse to try them, because sometimes you're just like, oh, well, that seems like the best thing, and then you're surprised by how good, like, I don't know, Goliath Truck is, or the little flank one you do, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm I'm interested to see like how these warlords shake out. Like I definitely I think there's some interesting ideas to the fact that Magus is able to grab these discounted troops. Um, it's not necessarily consistent in a sense, but it can be like really powerful in certain ways. And then Primus is in. I mean, having three modes as a warlord is is pretty nice. Draw a
Yeah.
troop, draw a stratagem, heal for one, and just the consistency that comes with that. It makes sense. Like I think it's good to have a warlord that kind of is like a toolbox for a combo deck. Like that obviously makes it more viable. Magus kind of like also is not really a toolbox, but like can get you certain things that benefit what you're doing. And then of course Malik kind of rounding out the rest of it of like, hey, if you want to play some annoying or like potentially strong units and just beat their face down, um, they all make sense, and so maybe it's probably less about them as warlords and more about like what is the best thing to be doing in terms of synergy or in terms of like aggression in the faction. So I think I've had the most fun with Magus for sure.
Yeah, well, Magus, you can just high roll into so much stuff.
I love and this will come up later when we talk about Lehman Russes. I
You want to know?
I will say it was fun in a couple like really late games, just pulling a Lehman Russ and then like getting some random, uprising stuff out of nowhere. I know that that's probably not supposed to be too competitive, but it's kind of cool when you're hitting your opponent in the face for like 10. So. So there's a lot of fun to be had with this faction. I really like that. The sort of like a little bit of randomness, a little bit of kind of flexible options, and I really do like Malik. To Harry's point, I'm much more of an aggro player, I think, at heart, but and I really like the build I've been trying. I think I'm short of probably a couple legendaries that would maybe smooth it out a little bit more. But overall, I think these warlords have been pretty fun to play with. I think that's and they've got their strengths. So
Yeah.
nothing that's like, oh yeah, we can't play that.
Yeah, none of them are unplayable by any means. I think Malik's just like kind of seems. I think now we probably say Malik's the weaker one just because he doesn't really fit that like their strongest archetype. But like
Yes.
his ability is good. Like just that kind of like mid-rangey, just big body kind of deck isn't quite what Genestealer seem built for. But like
Yes.
if you want to go down that route, then like Malik's your guy, I think.
Yeah, and I do want to try Malik with like other like could a more synergy based strategy work, and like what would that potentially require?
Actually, one thing I would say, I think like the Locust, the little free drop that stuns, is probably like you can just put that in every Genestealer deck. It's such a good card. Malik's really good with Locust because you can keep healing him up, and sometimes you can even I had a game against a Swarm Lord where I was playing like Malik like ambush deck, and like the first turn Locust went down, I just smacked melee. He went down to 1 HP, and for the next 4 turns I kept like healing him. And because he got one ranged, I could stun Swarm Lord with just a little one ranged attack.
Oh, I did that play the other day too, actually.
It's so funny. Like, yeah, they're probably looking at the stats, but oh, this guy's not going to stun me again. I got a free melee attack, and you just keep giving him like 1 HP and 1 range just to keep restunning him every turn.
Yeah, 2 energy to stun your Swarm Lord. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, I think we can start getting into a little bit more of the details. I mean, it's I feel like I've gotten a good amount of experience playing each warlord. I definitely want to do, I think, more testing with Magus in particular, but I'm really excited. Like I said at the beginning, Slither and I have gone back and forth about decks. I mean, Harry and I also talk about that too, and so we definitely wanted to get into a little bit more of the specifics and do some deck doctoring with Slither. So honestly, this deck, with Magus Uthrolnas, and the title is my favorite title for any deck that I've seen.
Nice hand, idiot.
with that exact tone.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, when you look at your opponent's hand, and it's like 7 out of the 10 is your cards, and what else are you gonna say?
it's like what is it, the scene from Dumb and Dumber, which is like, stop hitting yourself, is just all I'm seeing. So
Those barricades are gonna play themselves.
That's right, and now they cost 4 because I played Underground Network.
Yeah.
Take us through it. Like, what made you want to build this? Like, what's the vibe here? How are you liking it?
So this is probably the deck I had the most fun with playing Genestealers. It's so much more fun compared to Uprising. I think initially I was trying to play Sabotage and Malik, which can work because Malik's ability is like quite a nice early control tool, but another really good thing with Magus is that you're generating units, you're not generating stratagems. So with this deck, we've got we've got like 2 Trap Sprung, two Dave Ascensions. We probably should cut to 1, but we got the double enhanced aggression, we've got double backstab, double clandestine operation. We can go like pretty stratagem heavy and not really get punished for it because you're not you just pull units out of your mystery card pool. So yeah, they allowed us to run. Like Magus basically allows this deck to be quite greedy with its stratagems, which is great. So in terms of the units, we've sort of just focused on units that I felt we like kind of needed the most. I mean, Biophagus on 3 is just like amazing. Like
God,
it's good in any Genestealer deck,
card.
but even better with Sabotage. Locust, another really good 3-drop, just nice way of controlling the board. Clemavis is great, being able to like being able to like create and choose a stratagem for 1 energy is amazing. So in like this deck, you do want to play him on 5 and stun the Warlord to try and keep him alive. Ridge Runner, amazing. Like also, I think another just really solid card, but even better in Sabotage. Same with Benefactus. We've got the 1 Vanguard. That's kind of like a flex spot. I just felt like we are a control deck, so like unfortunately that hypermorph is the only consistent Vanguard. So we put him in, and we can combo him with Perfect Ambush if if we need to survive. But you can also put the Perfect Ambush on the Ridge Runner, and that's also pretty oppressive. You get to go in and strike anything with your invulnerability, and your opponent can't get rid of it. So you get another sabotage the next turn. I just want the Sabotage archetype. Generally, it's really, really fun. You do have to play it very differently based on what kind of deck you're fighting. So for like fast decks, like Aggro Galen and stuff, you do kind of have to just like keep feeding them stratagems 1 by 1 to make them play them, because you kind of just have to slow them down. But if you're against a slow deck, then you don't want to do that. You want to you kind of want to get all your Sabotage cards ready, and then like turn 6 or something. Like turn 6, you could like backstab Clandestine Operation and play the Neophyte Specialist, and then they've got, if it's someone like Imhotep or like Ultramarines Vehicles or any kind of slow deck, then they can't play out everything in 1 turn, and then you kind of want to try keep snowballing your Sabotages from there, and that's a lot of fun.
That's a really great way to put that, Slither. I don't think I had really made that sort of connection where aggro you can do kind of the more like on turn 2, on turn 3, on turn 4, and sort of like you said, feed them 1 by 1, whereas with a slower deck you can't do that because they'll just kind of try and survive.
Another nice thing with Magus in this deck is like you can sometimes get into these stalemates where like you put a few stratagems in their hand, they play them out, and it just kind of goes back and forth like that for a few turns. So as Magus, sometimes you can just like pull a Goliath truck or a Lehman Russ out, and you'll be like, well, okay, fine. If this game's going kind of slow, I'm just going to start dropping bombs that are like discounted by 1 energy, and that can win you the game if the Sabotage isn't going that well. But obviously you still have stuff like Trap Sprung and Day of Ascension. I think maybe you could go down to 1. The nice thing with Day of Ascension is that like it's based on hand size, so even if your opponent's clearing every single Sabotage, you've still added a card to their hand, so their hand should still be bigger than it would be normally. Whereas Trap Sprung specifically has to be off the Sabotage cards.
So quick note, right? And Harry and I caught this like literally right before we did our card review. Do you think a trap sprung was too strong at 4, and that's why they put it down to 3?
I don't know. Like, I think I do find it a tad underwhelming on 5 sometimes.
That's how I felt as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting they nerfed it before it actually got like tested.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see what it was like on 4, but I don't know. The thing with sabotage, like unless you're like really swarming their hand with a lot of sabotage cards, you're not usually getting like ton. You're probably playing this for like 9 damage, or maybe 12 if they're like being really greedy and not playing the cards out. And also the damage is random anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely a knock against it, for sure.
Yeah, it feels very risky. It's a big gamble to like play this to like remove stuff. It's almost more like a finisher.
It feels so good though if you get it as a finisher. It's so satisfying.
I think anything else for this deck. Yeah, it was kind of just like a lot of the control tools. Actually, I think I might have made a change. I think in the deck I'm running now, I think I've actually put the concealed explosives in for the little like backstab mine combo.
Okay.
Which I initially didn't rate, but I saw Ecclesiarch was putting that in his deck. So I was like, well, I don't know, I should give it a go. And I quite liked it.
I also have not really given that a fair shake, and I actually think it is like it's something worth doing in a deck that, you know, could get overrun or could struggle to survive.
I feel it's fine with Sappho or Magus. It's fine because you have so much card generation anyway. I think with Malik, it's maybe not a good call to put backstab and the mines in, just because you can't really afford to like have 2 cards like just waiting for a combo. Whereas in Magus and Sappho, it's like fine, like you're generating so many cards, like you can have these little 2-card combos.
Yeah.
For effects if they're good enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think the cards that I've just enjoyed for this strategy the most, right, are like Biophagus and Ridge Runner and sort of Clemavus as well. Like it just that fact that you're, even though Biophagus isn't necessarily pressuring the board, it's giving you some pretty solid card advantage. And you know, then it puts obviously the poison supplies, which can be quite obnoxious for different decks. But like, yeah, some of these 2-for-1 sabotage, like just the stronger cards in Achilles Ridge Runner, kind of Clamavus because you'll get it the next turn if he lives, and specifically Biophagus. I just feel so good whenever I play them. And it'd be, I feel like if there were more kind of 2-for-1 sabotage cards of their power level, then maybe sabotage would have been problematic out the gate. Because they really stand out as like they're really pressuring on both fronts to some degree.
Yeah, we were like Ridge Runner. How are you gonna get rid of the sabotage and also kill the Ridge Runner unless it was like already quite low? But
I'm curious, Slither, what were you looking to combo lying in wait with in this deck? Just flankers, or was there other stuff you were kind of thinking about with that card?
Yeah, I think that's definitely like another flex card. I mean, I think Clamavus, Ridge Runner, Benevictus you could all use lying in wait on. But also, I mean, you are Magus, so like if you get something good from his card pool, like you can't just lying in wait it. Yeah, probably not essential. I think that's maybe still kind of testing with that card. Yeah. I think I probably said it's a flex card. Nothing. We didn't go too crazy with that with lying in wait.
Well, what I would say for this deck before we move on to is like I found it very fun to play. I really enjoyed kind of trying to optimize. I'm missing a few cards from this list, but I like the idea. I think it makes sense, sort of from this like, let's go late, sabotage, then, you know, Day of Ascension, potentially a trap sprung. Like this does on paper seem like a really nice way to approach sabotage in general. and I think I like the early aggression. Like I love that too. Because you can add that to whatever you pull off of Magus. It can have some really nice applications as well.
Also, Benefactor is it's got 8 range, so if you play that really late into the game, you can like kill something, then kill another thing with a flank.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think for the control or for the kind of like love grinding out, because I had someone commenting the other day like, what should I play if I like control or something like that, and it's like it's not maybe typical control, right? Because it's more of like we want to get to late game and then kind of punish them somehow. Rather than like necessarily controlling the flow of the game and the pace of the game. But I think it's a really fun build. I would definitely encourage people giving this kind of shell a chance. And I also found the bore throughs combined with a trap sprung and Day of Ascension can kind of just get people out of nowhere. Like bore through, I've actually thought about as sort of an aggro finisher a little bit for Malik as well, but I'll let Harry talk about Malik a bit more. So I appreciate you sharing this deck, Slither. It's one of the first that I actually tried because I had Magus pretty early, and it's definitely a fun one, and I think it's relatively competitive. I don't know how you feel about it in terms of like the rank ladder.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, it's definitely not. I think it's definitely viable. It's just, I mean, at the moment with Genestealers, you just may as well play Uprising if you want to climb with them. There's just, it has a little bit of some matchup problems. Scarabs are bad just because like you would have to like bury them in like poison supplies, which is just not really going to happen.
No.
If you put poison supplies in their hand, they're just going to play it to double the Scarabs.
That's an unfun interaction, isn't it? Huh? Giving them more artifice triggers. Yeah.
Also, with the control, there's certain warlords like Terra, Eliak. Anyone that's like kind of aggro, but like is more just like hitting your face with extra damage. Like, none of the sabotage cards really like stop them. If they're like swarmy, they're kind of like go wide aggro. Then obviously poison supplies is their big slowdown. But like, if Eliak's got like Dance of Death and is smacking you for 5, like you don't have a sabotage to stop that. We only have 1 Vanguard. You can't play it till 6. So certain archetypes you can't really slow them down so much. Which is a kind of a big weakness. And also it sucks against Uprising as well. Uprising just doesn't care about our sabotage cards. I think after some balanced tweaks, this is definitely a deck to give a go at the start of the next season and see how well it does.
I would agree. It'd be interesting if like somehow this faction had like some other like a stun stratagem. Because like you have stun through Locust, you have stun through Clamavus, and it's something that like if they had a little bit more like way to get some wiggle room, I think that would also really benefit this strategy. But
they don't really have any heal outside of the. If you want to heal, you have to get it off the Warlord thing, which Magus doesn't have.
No.
And even then, the 2 mana to heal once, not like that crazy.
Yeah.
On a 35 HP Warlord.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. But I agree. I think when Uprising, I imagine inevitably gets changed. I do think that these could be some really great. This could be a really great list to really address. Especially like if you wanna, if it's in a meta that can go late. I think that really makes a difference. I think they're just having Tyranids and Abaddon aggro, and I guess like Gruk is kind of like somewhere in the middle there, being such good decks at pressuring you early. It definitely can make things quite a bit tougher. But that is Nice Hand Idiot by none other than Slither. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the old Ascension approaches. Because we all kind of know the deal at this point. But basically, for those, if you have not played with or against, what is Primus Sapha Rampant Infestation, essentially all you're trying to do, you put Rampant Infestation in your hand. You're not running a lot of stratagems. In the build that I have, and I know people have different ones, I just have 2 Rampant Infestation and 1 Perfect Ambush. So it's obviously, I can guarantee that I get that card in my hand. And then you're comboing off, you get a bunch of damage through Initiate. You can just make a lethal board that they have to deal with. Most of the board is going to have 3 health, though. And so that can be addressed by in certain matchups. But what can't be addressed for the most part is going to be the 4-cost hybrid Metamorph, which is the Octopus Man that we looked at earlier. And that thing just climbs to like, I'm not sure how the math breaks, but it's usually what, like 20 health and 20 attack or something?
I don't think it's 20 HP. I think it gets even more like kind of 10 or 11. It's only getting 1 extra HP for each.
That's right.
I would say I've played against a little bit of Chaos just recently, and I just got my ass kicked by someone. If even if your Metamorph is actually really, really tall, Chaos can spawn them, put all the little Chaos spawns into your Metamorph, and then just trade Tate to finish off.
Yeah.
So Chaos do actually have like a pretty good way to either clear the board or just kill you with Legacy of Vengeance, but like everyone else, can't deal with Metamorph plus everything else.
That's true. And like, it can still struggle against Scarabs. It can still struggle against, anything that just has the ability to close out the game, basically on their turn 6 or 7 or something like that. I think what's so unfortunate is like, it is a cool combo deck, like from a person who wants to play combo, and I knew that that's obviously what Uprising was meant for. What's unfortunate is that it does operate like a little too easily, and so like I would love to see combo decks be viable in terms of competition, but I do think combo decks, when they're viable in competitive environments, tend to be like too strong, and so I feel like that's been kind of the case with other games as well. I could be wrong, but I think we're going to see a change to Rampant Infestation. I'm not sure what else necessarily would be tweaked. The deck, I mean, I'll definitely take it from Slither and BJ, and I think a few other people have talked about this deck. It's just really, really powerful. There's no two ways about it.
It's just too much to deal with on turn 6, turn 7.
Yeah.
And that will always happen. Like, the deck's designed it, like, it'll never not happen.
It kind of reminds me, obviously in a different way, of like when your opponent goes turn 4, turn 5 Predator last season, and you're just like, okay, I lose. Yeah, can't do anything about that. And it's Chaos is definitely, Abaddon is very, very well positioned into this particular deck. Also, I think generally into Scarabs as well. Like, Chaos just is the king of answering go wide threats, and just like putting a good amount of damage on the enemy warlord while they're doing it. So that's definitely shifted the meta from when I did like a little meta report week 1 to what it is now. I don't want to kill the deck, but the deck is too strong right now.
I actually have a hot take. I actually don't think Scarabs is so good into this deck.
Oh, okay.
I think Scarabs going second, if they can get a full board with like the defense card, I think Scarabs can win. But if they're going first, then maybe not getting the Scarabs up until turn 4, turn 3. If you have the Neophyte Initiate, you can kind of like almost full clear the Scarabs like early on.
That is true. I've actually had that come up. I think, I can't remember if I actually won that matchup, but you're definitely right about that. So you can kind of fight them.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the strengths of the deck is because your hand is so full with these 2 and 3 drops, you can play a couple out just to like to slow the opponent down. I think like you do. I think you probably need to mulligan for your little 1-drops or the 3-drop that gives you the 1-drops against Scarabs. But like, I think going second against Scarabs, I think you'll probably be okay unless you're quite unlucky.
Fair point. I actually haven't played the matchup too much, but I run into it here and there. And also, I don't think I had the ideal setup for this when I first played it. So I could see that. I mean, Neophyte Initiate is a good way of combating going wide. Well, I mean, I don't want to say too much else about this. I feel like people kind of know what this is. It is in BJ's video. I think it was like literally this morning, looking at his feelings on the meta, which I 100% agree with. I think this is in a class of its own. So we'll kind of see how things shake out. But that is roughly Ascension approaches. I'm sure there's like a little bit of flexibility. We were talking a little bit on BJ's stream about like, do you need 2 rampant infestation? Maybe you just have 1, and then you kind of have some other options in here. I think he also mentioned like maybe not playing 2 Nexos. So there's probably even a little bit of flexibility in this build if you really want to put some time into it and refine it. But, that's what we got for Primus Sapphire. To round out the 3, Mr. Harry himself, tell us your experience. I know you said often like you're still working on your collection and stuff like that, and honestly I think that's great because there's plenty of people who are in the same position. So tell us a bit about Icon Ward Malik and kind of the build that you have here.
Well, I'm reluctant to spend my legendary wild cards at the minute because I've got like 30 packs opened and I'm gonna get a legendary soon, so I don't want to make any legendaries until I see the one I get from the packs.
A wise man.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to fee, but
yeah, smart move.
I was gonna ask, like, you see in the other, what's the Magnus deck,
yeah,
is the reason you're not running the pure strain because you can get it from your hero ability? Because I think that pure strain needs to be in every single deck.
The 4-drop flanker.
Yeah. I think I may have changed the deck to put the pure strain in. Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I did put them in.
You caught him, Harry.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, for 4 energy, the pure strain is insane, and I'm with the heal as well from Malak. Yeah, I've been having loads of success with it. But one thing I will say, you were saying about bore through being like a finisher, this and that. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm gonna take ball through out. I've only got it in there at the minute, but I'm gonna be replacing that with like one of the legendaries I get. I normally just do 3 damage to a hero's face, and it's like most of the time I'm just like, oh mate, this is a bit
underwhelming.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I thought when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, because you know me, I like 3 damage on turns 2 and 3. I love them cards, but like it's very rare I get to see armor, to do that 3 damage.
Yeah, it does feel good if it works out for you. But I agree. Probably saying a finisher is not the right term. I think with Malik, I was sensing like I need more damage reach, not just from troops. And so I was kind of like, oh, like bore through can kind of maybe get me there if I can deal 3 with my warlord and 3 with my stratagem. But it's slightly overcosted when I think about the I'm blanking on the name, but the 2 energy deal 3 damage from the Tau. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I played a little bit with the deck, but with me, it's more like I don't really. So what I do is I like go really aggressive. Like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to catch them off guard on turn 10 with a Day of Ascension. I want to like, yeah, that's my way of playing. Like on turn 10, I want to, and then obviously like I've got the Genestealer Familiar stuff. I got 2 of them, stuck them in there for the Benefactus and the Hypermorph. That late you can take something out with that, with either a Benefit, having rush on it. Like you kill it with the ability, then you can put rush on it. Yeah, it's handy. Yep. Like if you're going against Chaos, they got them big units or something like that. But yeah, Day of Ascension is the best.
I love Genestealer Familiar too. I mean, that's definitely something I'm running in, like, not my ambush deck, but like more of an aggro tempo deck. I've really liked that quite a bit. But yeah, it's a cool. I feel like this is like a blend of sabotage and like if you go late, then you've got your closer with Day of Ascension, but you can also kind of apply some pressure or like answer their threats. And then you've got Underground Network to potentially, really make those sabotages count.
I need to get another one really. I ain't got. I should craft one really, but legendary wise, I'm gonna get the one that can go invisible and it's got blast. I don't know
Oh
what it's
yeah,
called.
The Saboteur, yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
such a good
I'm
card.
gonna take that, and I think I'm gonna take the one that takes the card from the enemy. That I think
Domination, yeah.
domination, but I think they're the only two. I don't know if I'm gonna go with anything else.
Yeah, I mean those are two. Like those legendaries are really strong. Like, and then like a decent combo, although it's not the best. It depends on the matchup. Is like familiar with Sanctus. You're able to like snipe some stuff out.
Yeah, such a good combo. You can get it off.
It's really nasty to turn the game around if you're falling behind. But yeah, I mean, I think what's great about talking about all these 3 decks is kind of looking at how we all. Not that I'm going to say like Sappho was something that I approached in my early days. Definitely just wanted to talk about Uprising, but yeah, it's cool to think about like what draws us to which warlord and kind of like what strategy we're looking to do. And my definitely, I would say my first build was just Magus like value stuff. I don't think I really had a clearer sense of I think what both of you guys are doing, which is looking at how you can kind of make sabotage really work. So it's
yeah, because
cool
that's what I enjoy. I'm gonna play what I find fun,
Yeah.
And sabotage, I just like it. I don't know. I'm drawn to it, so it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Is that the most fun mechanic for all of us? Sabotage.
Yeah,
It sounds of it,
yeah. I agree. It's funny because I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so toxic and everyone's gonna be so mad and everything, and it's like I'm kind of glad that it wasn't that way, but also I'm like, okay, how do we actually make this a little bit more functional?
Has anyone managed to kill a Makari yet?
I want to.
Like you put, because Makari goes back to their hand.
Yeah.
So if you can like put enough sabotages in, you can actually kill the Makari because the hand's already full.
No, that's a cool achievement to unlock. Yeah.
I've managed the woods, but I was very happy. I hate that little gremlin.
Yeah, whenever you see Makari, you're like, oh god, okay.
Yeah, moving on turn 1.
It increases my opponent's win percentage by 5 to 10%, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's Makari is insane. Cool. I definitely want to move us along. And I think it was just great to kind of see the deck builds and just like give a bit of insight and and it's always so fun to talk to you guys about like what you're building and why and like what draws you to certain strategies and certain cards. But just to kind of close us out for today and not keep us here for 3 hours like I did to poor old Terry, 2 weeks ago.
I thought the plan was to go like 4 hours because I'm here, so we gotta add an extra hour.
Did I mess up the math again? Yeah. Why don't we'll just double it, right? 6? I don't know. No. Just so I can keep myself honest here because I don't want to keep the boys too late in the UK. So I thought it'd be fun definitely to just talk about some like favorite cards, some kind of sleeper cards in a sense of like maybe this card is getting too little attention and really could benefit. But I gotta just hand it over to Slither immediately and say, okay, we've got a screenshot here. Let's tell the folks at home what the heck is happening.
Okay, so I built a deck around Subterranean Ambush and pull like big bodies in, my Lehman Russes, my Goliath tanks, stuff like this. And on E8, my hand was so full. Maybe I was playing either Sapphire or Omega, or something. I don't know. Just lost track of my cards. Hand got too full, and my Lehman Russ got discarded because my hand was already full, which it was kind of sucked. But that same turn, my Goliath truck died, so I was like, okay, whatever. It's whatever. I'm just gonna play my Subterranean Ambush. This is what the deck is for. And then I get my choice of 3 cards, and the Lehman Russ is there. And I never played a Lehman Russ. It was only an E8. Lehman Russ is an E10 card. So it turns out if something gets discarded because your hand is full, it actually goes to your like graveyard.
Which I did not
actually,
know.
Yeah, I didn't know until that game either. So you could actually, yeah, and then you could actually revive. You could revive it before you can technically play the card, which is pretty funny.
That's so wild.
It's really wild. Unfortunately, I did try to like recreate it. I built like a Safford deck where I had the living icon.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, I could try and fill my hand up and then strike, potentially pull like a big unit, and like discard it, kill it, to then revive it. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite figure it out, and I saw my rank points were I was dropping down in the leaderboard, so I was like, oh damn, I gotta like get on this uprising stuff before the end of the season.
Yeah.
But like if there's some like lavas or whatever, like if someone can find out a deck for subterranean ambush and get like Lehman Russes out on E5, E6, that they'll be my hero.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to try and break this somehow.
Oh yeah,
this
do it.
Seems sick. Oh my goodness, what a wild discovery here, folks. That's really nuts with subterranean ambush. Another card that I was like, is this going to be like too good? Is it not? And obviously it costs a bit more. You know, your five energy to get something back is going to cost you. But if you're getting a Lehman Russ, I guess it's pretty worth it, huh?
I probably would say like, as it is right now, I wouldn't say it's a strong card. I just feel like there is a certain ceiling to how big the effect can be if you can like figure out some kind of discard shenanigans.
I think it's interesting. It's certainly intriguing.
Mm.
Well, and so obviously we wanted to talk about that with Slither here, but is there? I think Slither, did I put up the Metamorph Icon Bearer for you? Was that a card?
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So what's your take on this card? Why do you like it? Why do you think it's good?
I mean, it's just really, really good for a few reasons. Like the body's fine, you know, 5/4/5, it's whatever, it's good enough. But the 2-drop pool is actually like really good in Genestealers. Like they all kind of like do something a little bit different. You got a sabotage card. You've got 2 ambush cards, which aren't very good on their own. But if you've got like your 3E, 4E ambush cards that maybe you've not had a chance to play yet, what you can do is you can pull like a 2-cost ambush card. And you can like mix and match them, so like you've got like 2 ambush cards on the field and your opponent doesn't know which is the scarier card, which is pretty nice. And the flanker as well is like just always good. And the nice thing with I say that the problem with the 2-drops is they're not really that good on 2. Like you don't really want to play them like straight away. The 1/3/3 like might survive till the next turn, but like it's not really going to do much. So if anything, I feel like you really see the power of the 2-drops when you play them a little bit later with something else. And obviously Metamorph lets you do that because you don't have to run the 2-drops if you don't want. You can just play this guy on 5 and you can start comboing with them later on. So yeah, I just found this card's like really, really solid. Obviously good in the Uprising combo.
Yep.
Pretty good in Malik. Just because he doesn't have card draw, so being able to like pop 2 cards into your hand while also putting a good body down is like pretty solid. I think I wouldn't run Icon Bearer in Magus just because like that is a warlord where your hand does start to get full pretty quick with all your like discounted units. But yeah, I think Icon Bearer is just a very, very solid unit. You can put it in any deck really.
Yeah, what a great rare. You know, it just does what it's kind of supposed to do. And yeah, I like your notes. So that you had expressed that before about like the 2-drops are not actually that impactful on 2, but if you can kind of like set up a nice turn on maybe 6 or 7 energy or 4 energy potentially, yeah, you can get a bit more I guess like value out of them than if you just run them out. So yeah, I think it's a great card. It's definitely performed pretty well, and I totally agree about Magus. You're not really looking for that kind of thing. But for Malik, I've loved it. It's been so good. So I think there's some potential for him to be, just such a staple in those sorts of builds.
Yeah, it's Malik. You love like drawing this guy like around E5. He's just so helpful. You start to run out of cards, and he's just there to like bump you back up.
Yeah, and it gets you two things to lob out, and like stuff survives, and you get to heal it and attack back. And speaking of which, like, I've actually had some pretty nice experiences with, things like Nexos and I'm still trying to figure out like the build I've really been testing is like, what if I just stick kind of the best stealth cards and sort of like tempo-y cards in a deck and see if that goes. But I will say maybe there's something else to be had with a card like Nexus, because so you can play it and most of the time your opponent can't interact with it, obviously, and then you take your next turn, and it's like, especially if you've got Biophagus out, you can get multiple artifice abilities going on. And so I feel like there's something there with like like Uprising and Nexus, but maybe not like Infestation. Maybe there's a way for you to still kind of like get a bit of value out of Nexus with going wide, but maybe it's not necessarily Uprising. I'm not sure, but I feel like this card has a bit of power to it. It's kind of why I wanted to talk about it today. And although it doesn't really shine in Uprising combo because you just don't really need it, or at least that's what I found. I've really liked it in like a Malik style, like I'm just gonna try and beat your face in, because it's really easy for this to you get +1 from Malik's ability, and then you get +1 from Nexos, and then you're kind of doing the thing. You're hitting for potentially 9 damage just between your Warlord and Nexos. The question is like, can you keep up the pressure? And I think that's kind of been the issue. And obviously Nexos can get killed very easily, so you're kind of like, you've got one turn to kind of make this card do the thing. But I've had some pretty scary aggro curve outs with Nexus.
I think in the Uprising decks, if you put Nexus down like the turn before Uprising, it can be quite scary.
True.
You can just like kill whatever your opponent played like the turn before.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think I've ever drawn Nexus in my Uprising deck for whatever reason. It's like I went like 20 games playing Malik and never saw my Sanctus ever, and I was like, "Hello, are you in there?" I literally checked my deck after a certain
He's
point.
sneaking around at the bottom of the deck.
It's like a
a
little too flavorful with the ambush, I guess. But we will talk about Biophagus. But Harry, take us through why you've enjoyed Acolyte Leader.
Acolyte Leader. Well, I've enjoyed him in my deck because I think he's annoying, and it's like you're not really gonna use a spell on him, like, and then that means like less spells being used, more cards in the hand for when you use the 10 cost, that does the damage.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I've really liked him. I thought he's performed well for me. Obviously, if they've got flankers, he's done. Like, he's not good against flankers.
But
I was gonna say, have you had someone like accidentally play a spell before killing it, and then they like resign?
Not resign, but I've had someone like use a spell, not realise that it gives the help,
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Even sometimes they trade into it with their face. Like, do you know what I'm saying? They'll go into it with their face to try and do the 4 damage and not play a spell, and then they've got more in their hand. So like that, when I see that happen, I was like, yeah, like it's perfect for me because I'm on a mind game. I'm trying to whittle down, chip at you until I get that ascension. So he just works well for me. Like, obviously now I've said that, probably not. People are gonna like. No more how to deal with him, right? But yeah, he's really good, and he gives everyone else. So if you've got a couple, like, mate, imagine you're putting him down with that armor guy.
Oh, like hidden behind the Vanguard.
Yeah.
It's done. Like, that Vanguard gets health, he's finished. like, and remember you're healing with your hero ability as well. So that
Medic,
acolyte leader, he is hard to deal with.
Yeah, I will say when I was looking at this guy and the metamorph, I thought this card would be more impactful, and I do think it can have an impact in potentially playing it later. I like it in the sense that it's kind of like making your opponent not want to play the sabotages necessarily, and I think that it is cool that there's a card that basically is like, all right, if you play this out, you're gonna get sort of punished for it. Because really right now it's quite binary, right? It's like either I'm playing the stratagem because I can, or I'm not going to play it because I'm going to pressure you. And Acolyte Leader kind of puts like a little bit more weight toward you have to play tempo with me rather than play stratagems. Plus 1 health to your troops is generally a pretty strong effect. The problem is that your opponent gets to decide that, right? So it's an interesting it's an interesting card.
I'm experimenting putting him in the Uprising deck just as like a bit of a chaos counter, just so if like maybe you don't draw your hypermorph and you get this is your like 4-drop that you put down, and if they play Spawn them, then all your units get 1 health. Like I'm not seeing it like massively work yet, so like don't like dramatically change your Uprising decks, but like I don't know. I wondered maybe this could be like a little bit of like an anti-chaos card potentially.
That is a cool thing to think about, and I could totally see that making some sort of difference, especially as like the meta gets more and more kind of refined to deal with Uprising. That's kind of juicy, Slither. Thanks for sharing that. Well, just to round it out, I think Carrie and I both said we liked Biophagous as like one of our favorite cards. Yeah, I'm sure Slither you enjoy it too. It's so good. I remember looking at this card and I'm like, huh, this generates a lot of cards. Interesting.
It just does everything for a free drop.
Yeah, it's generating like, and that's what I will say is like, I wonder how powerful Sabotage would be if other sabotage cards specifically did one sabotage card over the other, and it wasn't random. Because Biophagous is he's the only example, right, where he puts exactly the one that he says.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no other like specific sabotage card, I don't think.
Not like Cult Uprising, and then it's like, here, you have to take the Uprising stratagem. I think that's an interesting thing to think about, is like, Biophagus's part of his appeal is like, you are making a poison supplies in their hand. Most decks can't necessarily afford to not play troops, or like usually they're going to want to chuck that out. And so that's a really interesting kind of tug of war with this card. And then the fact that this has stealth, can't interact with it. And so I'm curious for you guys, do you find like when you're going to play Biophagous, are you immediately trying to like keep him alive, like with the armor stratagem, or are you tending to pick like maybe like the flank stratagem when you play him?
For me, I think it depends. Like, I think if you're playing against something that was quite fast and like you couldn't just play out like a 4-drop or something, then like maybe it's a backup plan. It'd be like, okay, fine, I'll just give this guy armor and there's another body on the field. Yeah. I think if the game was going a bit later, or maybe your deck was like kind of had more like certain plays for the late game, maybe you'd like take a flank for later on, or maybe you don't even use a talent, or just play your 4-drop out or whatever.
True. Yeah.
Well, think about armor on the leader.
Oh, you can't put it on the leader, right?
No, it's
the Acolyte leader. Oh, Acolyte leader, you mean?
Oh.
Acolyte leader, yeah.
Ah, I see. Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's a little spicy.
Yeah. I've not done it because I never used the thing, because I've always got something else to do that's more on turn 4. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, whether I'm dropping the leader or I'm dropping whatever I'm doing something else. I think I put armor on the Biogus once, and he just got killed. So like, I think you very much need to know what the enemy's gonna do and what's on the board and what's their reach on it before you put the armor on, because he's just gonna get dealt with, and you'd be better off just holding on to the flank or even the armor from one of your later on troops.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has so many options. It's so true.
I think if you're playing a 1-3, you probably say most of the time you end up just playing your 4-drop instead of taking the talent. But like, if you play the Fagus a little bit later, then the talent's like quite tempting just for like 1 energy.
Yeah, I've been experimenting. I have tried taking the armor, like to sequence like next turn. I'm always kind of asking myself, okay, if I play Biophagus, like, do I want to use the talent? And if I don't want to use the talent, maybe I want to play this a little later. But either way, yeah, you just get so much value from this card. It's a 3 energy. It's doing a whole lot for 3.
All right. Another thing is if usually they'll always play the poison supplies out, and then if they also have a unit as well, then like your warlord plus the Biophagus should be enough to clear it, unless it's like a stealth drop.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it just does like so much for you.
That's for
I
sure.
think he should have been legendary.
I mean, like, I wouldn't have been. I don't think I would have been surprised if this was legendary.
Yeah.
I mean,
it does look quite a lot for a regular card.
Yeah, for an epic, it's definitely stretching the definition of epic. I feel like here, and that's kind of how I felt looking at the epics for a lot of the faction. Yeah, I mean, honestly, my favorite thing about this card is his ranged attack animation. It just like throws the little like acid bomb and it like breaks.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Like that.
Little poison bomb.
Yeah, or yeah, the poison bomb.
Harry, you play League, right?
Yeah. Well, watch right.
Biophagus is just singed, right?
He's a ringer for singed, I won't lie.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like they should have probably put a little bit of hair on him, just so, like...
no copyright.
Yeah. Like, he's singed, basically, yeah.
Oh man, they're gonna come after EG. Goodness.
Oh god, yeah.
No, he really it's eerily similar, I would say. But well, I think that is what we got for you today, folks. Definitely keeping us still a little bit over an hour here. But yeah, that I just want to say thank you to Slither for coming on the cast with Harry and I.
Yeah, pleasure.
If we haven't scared you away, we're definitely gonna have you back. So.
Okay. Well, I'm not scared right now.
Yeah. Just wait until I'm like, all right, Slither, we got to get ready for the 6-hour podcast. And then Harry's like, yes.
We've called your work. We've told him you're sick. But don't worry, dude. You can come.
Oh Lord. But yeah, I mean, just some, I guess, closing thoughts on the Genestealers. I think they are pretty high on the fun meter. You know, maybe not for your opponent when you're playing 8 cards on turn 6 with Uprising, but aside from that, very fun faction, I feel.
Yeah, all the mechanics are just so fun.
Yeah, it just, like, I don't know. I go back and forth on deck building. I'm definitely a person who has net decked and kind of been like, oh yeah, hey, if you think this is good, I'll give it a shot. But I really was looking forward to just getting into deck building with this faction in a way that I don't think I really did with other ones. So.
Yeah, we like new mechanics. It's just like, oh, there's a lot of room to like try and be the first one to like figure out like this archetype or that archetype.
And these felt like very ambitious mechanics. It's kind of what we were saying. Like, oh man, this sabotage, haven't seen something like that in the game. Ambush, okay, it's stealth but not, you know. And then obviously Uprising kind of being a combo sort of finisher or something like that, but just yeah, not knowing how powerful it would be, how easy it would be to do.
Oh, actually, can I just give one very quick tip for ambush?
Please.
Okay, so with some of the cards that like give you ambush cards, your opponent can like see where they are in your hand. So if you're playing an ambush deck, you need to get into the habit of just shuffling your hand around like crazy. It's not BM because like it helps you, but like yeah, just keep shuffling your cards around like a madman.
Keep them guessing, like Harry said.
Yeah.
Just gonna keep them on their toes. Harry, any closing thoughts on your experience with Genestealer so far?
I've had a lot of fun with them. I could even say I've had more fun with the Genestealer release than I did with the sister release for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd second that.
And I would say as well that you can do a lot more with less legendaries with the Genestealers than you could with the sisters.
I think with the sisters is because they were so bad on release. You're just looking at the legendaries, it's like, oh, they'll be good once I get Saint Celestine. Oh wait, I still suck. Oh, they'll be good once I get Relics of Saint Catherine. Oh, they still suck. You just like you've got the whole collection, you still suck with them. It's like, well,
also,
what did you spend all this money for?
I said from day one that Sisters of Battle epics were garbage. I was like, what is going on? I don't understand the power level of some of these units. Like they're still trying to buff, the flank 5-drop epic. Like, yeah, like it's things.
It'll be a 10/10 invulnerable next patch.
Yeah, 10/10 invulnerable. Give all your cards invulnerable and flank. Is it good enough? We'll see. Yeah, jeez, they've really had to deal with quite a lot. And as good as Judith can be, and Judith definitely operates at a pretty high level if you can get rolling. It's just the card level, the card power was, and just how the mechanics function was pretty rough. Whereas this feels like, okay, we're starting at a decent middle ground. Clearly, the standout is Uprising, but there's definitely some play to Sabotage. There's definitely a bit of play to Ambush, although a little bit on the weaker side. I mean, I feel like if we have, the guard kind of release. Maybe not. They might not have as much as the fun factor because the mechanics might not work that way. But like in terms of kind of diverseness and like playability, if it's anywhere near the Genestealers, I think I'll be very happy. So.
Yeah, I think when we talk about releases in the future, if we want to have like the fun scale, it'll be like Genestealers at the top. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know how Sisters or Tau, which you'd say is more boring, but yeah, Genestealers at the top. They've been so fun.
Yeah, it's been quite refreshing, I would say. So honestly, I'm thinking already we'll probably got to get Slither back when the guard get released and talk about deck building too. So obviously we don't know when that's coming out. It's definitely going to happen, I think, in the fall. If the pattern has persisted, we may see it as early as like October. But I guess we'll have to see.
Do you want to make a bet now? Which will be better, the cult Lehman Russ or like the actual Lehman Russ?
I'm gonna go with the OG personally.
OG, okay, fair enough.
We'll
I'll
see.
I'll say the cult then, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We'll see, Harry. We'll see. I mean, the cultists. I don't know how good they are at driving. I mean, they I guess they've learned over time, but yeah, that's going to do it for today, folks. Thanks so much, as always, for coming through. It was a real special treat to have Slither on, and for Harry and I get to chat and hang out. Yeah, so this will be up as soon as I can get it up there, and I'm very excited to do more episodes in the future, and definitely have some more features like this. Definitely let us know in the comments if this was something you enjoyed. Just also not hearing me drone on as per usual and Harry try to get a word in. So it's been a good time. So yeah, take a look at the builds, see what you like, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what your feelings are on Genestealers, and other than that, I guess we will all catch you in the next one.
See ya. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.